I was the 12th nanny hired to care for 8-year-old Ivy Turner, daughter of billionaire CEO James Turner. The agency warned me that no one had lasted more than 3 weeks. The child was impossible, they said, spoiled beyond redemption. But when I met Ivy for the first time, I recognized something the other 11 nannies had missed. Before we begin, I'd love to know, where are you watching this story from? Share in the comments below. And please subscribe for more stories about the power of compassion and understanding. Now, let me take you back to the day I walked into the Turner mansion and met the little girl who would change my perspective on everything. My name is Ellie Green, and I've always been drawn to the children others give up on. With a degree in child psychology and 5 years of experience working with kids from troubled backgrounds, I thought I'd seen it all. But when the Pemberton Nanny Agency called me about the Turner position, even I hesitated. "I'll be honest with you, Allie," said Mrs. Pemberton, the agency's director, her voice tight with frustration. "This is our most challenging placement. The child is difficult, extremely difficult. We've sent 11 nannies to that house in the past year and a half, and not one has lasted more than 3 weeks. What exactly makes her so difficult?" I asked, genuinely curious. "Tantrums, destruction of property, refusing to follow any rules or routines. She's thrown paint at nannies, hidden their belongings, even called the police once, claiming a nanny was kidnapping her. The father is at his wits' end." I'd worked with challenging children before, but this sounded extreme even by my standards. "What about the mother? Is she involved in the discipline?" There was a pause. "The mother passed away 2 years ago. Cancer. It's just Mr. Turner and Ivy now. And he's a very busy man. He travels frequently for business." Suddenly, the picture became clearer. An 8-year-old who had lost her mother, with a father who was likely using work to cope with his own grief. No wonder the child was acting out. "I'll take the position," I said, without hesitation. "Ellie, I don't think you understand. This child has made grown women cry. She's been through more nannies than some families go through in a lifetime. The pay is excellent, Mr. Turner is desperate, but the emotional toll..." And Mrs. Pemberton, I've worked with grieving children before. Sometimes the most difficult behavior comes from the deepest pain. "Well," she sighed, "if you're sure, but don't say I didn't warn you." You might wonder why someone with a degree in child psychology was working as a nanny instead of in a clinical setting. The truth is, I'd tried the traditional route first. After graduating, I'd worked for 8 months at a children's mental health clinic. And while I'd learned a lot, I'd also become frustrated with the limitations of the system. I'd sit in sterile offices with children who desperately needed help, but I could only see them for 50 minutes once a week. I'd watch kids make breakthroughs in our sessions, only to return the following week having regressed because their home environment hadn't changed. I felt like I was putting Band-Aids on wounds that needed surgery. The final straw came when I was working with a 6-year-old boy whose behavioral issues at school were clearly stemming from chaos at home. I could see exactly what he needed: consistency, emotional support, someone who understood his triggers, but I could only provide that for 1 hour a week. The rest of the time, he was on his own. That's when I realized that sometimes the most effective therapy doesn't happen in an office. It happens in daily life, in the moments when children feel safe enough to be vulnerable, in the consistency of having someone who truly understands them, present for the ordinary moments that make up a childhood. Working as a nanny allowed me to use my psychology training in a more holistic way. Instead of treating symptoms for an hour a week, I could address root causes by being present for a child's entire daily experience. I could see patterns that might not emerge in a clinical setting, and I could provide the kind of consistent, therapeutic relationship that some children need to heal. My father thought I was wasting my education, but I knew I was using it in exactly the way it was meant to be used, to help children not just cope with their problems, but to thrive despite them. The Turner estate was everything I'd expected from a billionaire's home. Imposing iron gates, a circular driveway that could accommodate a dozen cars, and a mansion that looked like it belonged in a magazine. But as I walked up the front steps, I wasn't thinking about the wealth on display. James Turner answered the door himself, which surprised me. He was younger than I'd expected, probably in his late 30s, with tired eyes that spoke of sleepless nights and endless worry. "Miss Green," he said, extending his hand. "Thank you for coming. I have to admit I'm not optimistic, but Mrs. Pemberton speaks very highly of your qualifications." "Thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Turner. I'm looking forward to meeting Ivy." He led me through a foyer that was larger than my entire apartment, past a living room that looked like it had never been lived in, to a family room that showed more signs of actual use. Books scattered on tables, a child's drawings stuck to the refrigerator, toys in a basket by the couch. "Ivy," he called up the stairs, "come down and meet Miss Green." The response was immediate and loud. "No, I don't want another stupid nanny. Tell her to go away." Mr. Turner's jaw tightened, and I could see the frustration and embarrassment warring on his face. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "She's been like this since her mother died. I've tried everything. Therapy, discipline, rewards, consequences. Nothing works." "How long did she go to therapy?" "About 6 months, but she refused to talk to the therapist, just sat there in silence or threw tantrums. Eventually, the therapist said there wasn't much point in continuing if Ivy wouldn't participate." I nodded, filing that information away. "Mr. Turner, would it be all right if I went up to meet her? Sometimes children respond differently when they're in their own space." He looked skeptical. "You can try, but I should warn you, she's thrown things at nannies before. Last week she dumped an entire bottle of shampoo on nanny number 11. I'll take my chances." I climbed the grand staircase, following the sound of what appeared to be furniture being moved around. The hallway was lined with family photos. I could see the progression from happy family pictures with a beautiful blonde woman who must have been Ivy's mother to more recent photos of just Mr. Turner and Ivy, where both of them looked like they were trying too hard to smile. I found Ivy's room at the end of the hall. The door was closed, but I could hear her inside, apparently rearranging her furniture. I knocked gently. "Go away," came the immediate response. "Hi, Ivy. My name's Ellie. I'm not here to make you do anything you don't want to do. I just wanted to say hello." "I said go away. I don't want another stupid nanny." "That's okay. You don't have to want me here. Can I ask you something, though?" Silence. "What happened to the last nanny? The one with the shampoo?" I heard a small giggle from behind the door, quickly stifled. "She was mean," Ivy said finally. "She said I was a brat and that my mommy would be ashamed of me." My heart clenched. No wonder this child was acting out. That was a terrible thing for her to say. Your mommy would never be ashamed of you. "How do you know? You didn't even know my mommy." "You're right. I didn't know her. But I know that mommies love their children no matter what, even when they're not here anymore." The silence stretched longer this time. Then, quietly, "Are you going to try to make me clean my room and eat vegetables and go to bed early?" "Is that what the other nannies tried to do?" "Yes, and they said I had to stop being sad about mommy because it was making daddy upset." I felt a surge of anger at the previous nannies, but I kept my voice calm. "Ivy, can I tell you a secret?" "What?" "I think being sad about your mommy makes perfect sense. I would be sad too if my mommy wasn't here anymore." "Really?" "Really. In fact, I was very sad when my mommy died. I was older than you. I was 16, but I was still very, very sad." The door opened a crack, and I caught a glimpse of a small face with dark hair and enormous brown eyes. "Your mommy died too?" "She did. And you know what? Sometimes I'm still sad about it, even though it was 10 years ago." The door opened wider, and I got my first full look at Ivy Turner. She was small for 8, with her father's dark hair, but what must have been her mother's delicate features. She was wearing a princess dress that had seen better days. But what happened next caught me completely off guard. "I don't believe you," Ivy said, her voice suddenly hard and suspicious. "You're just saying that to make me like you. All the nannies lie." "I'm not lying, Ivy. My mother really did die when I was—" "Prove it!" she screamed suddenly, her face contorting with rage. "Everyone lies. Everyone says things to make me be good and then they leave." Before I could react, she grabbed a small ceramic figurine from her dresser and hurled it at me. I ducked, and it shattered against the wall behind me. "Ivy, I understand you're angry." "No, you don't." She was in full meltdown mode now, grabbing anything within reach and throwing it. A book flew past my head, followed by a stuffed animal, then a picture frame that crashed to the floor. "I hate you. I hate all of you. I want my mommy." And then, as suddenly as it had started, the storm passed. Ivy collapsed in the middle of the destruction she'd created, sobbing with the kind of raw, broken sound that comes from the deepest places of grief. I heard footsteps running up the stairs, Mr. Turner, no doubt alerted by the noise, but I held up a hand when he appeared in the doorway, signaling him to wait. Slowly, carefully, I stepped into the room and sat down on the floor about 6 feet away from Ivy, not close enough to crowd her, but close enough that she knew I wasn't leaving. "I don't know if you're telling the truth about my mom, and you're right that other people have probably lied to you." Ivy's sobs quieted slightly, though she didn't look up. "And you're absolutely right that I don't understand everything. I don't understand what it's like to be you, or what it's like to lose your mommy when you're 8. She peeked at me through her fingers. "But I do understand what it's like to be so angry and sad that you want to break everything around you. I do understand what it's like to feel like everyone is lying to you, or trying to make you feel better with words that don't mean anything." "You do?" she whispered. "Well, I yelled at my dad a lot, and I told my teachers that I hated them even when I didn't really mean it. And I broke some things that were important to my dad too. I threw my dad's coffee mug against the wall because I was so angry that he was drinking coffee like everything was normal, when nothing would ever be normal again." Ivy sat up slightly, wiping her nose on her sleeve. "Did you get in trouble?" "Yes. But you know what my dad said to me afterward?" "What?" "He said, 'I understand why you're angry. I'm angry too. But next time you feel like breaking something, let's find something that's okay to break, so you don't hurt yourself or break something important.'" "Really?" "Really. And then he gave me a box of old dishes that we didn't need anymore, and whenever I felt like breaking something, I could take one outside and smash it against the fence." For the first time since I'd met her, Ivy looked genuinely curious instead of angry or defensive. "Did it help?" "It did. Not because breaking things fixed anything, but because someone finally understood that I needed to get the angry feelings out somehow." Ivy looked around at the chaos she'd created. Broken figurine pieces, scattered toys, overturned furniture. "I made a big mess." "You did, but messes can be cleaned up. And you know what? I think you needed to make this mess. I think you needed to show me how angry and sad you are." "I did?" "I think so, because now I know. Now I know that you're not just a little girl who throws tantrums. You're a little girl who misses her mommy so much that sometimes the feelings get too big for your body to hold." Ivy stared at me for a long moment, as if trying to decide whether to trust me or throw something else. Finally, she said, "Will you help me clean it up?" "Of course I will." As we worked together to put her room back in order, I could feel Mr. Turner watching from the doorway. When Ivy found the broken pieces of the ceramic figurine, she started to cry again. I broke Mommy's ballerina. She gave it to me before she died, and now it's broken. I'm sorry, sweetheart. That must feel terrible. I break everything good, she said, her voice small and defeated. No, you don't. You broke one thing when you were feeling very big emotions. That doesn't mean you break everything good. But what if I do? What if I break you too? Ivy, I said, sitting down beside her with the broken pieces in my hands. People aren't like figurines. We don't break that easily. And even if we get hurt sometimes, we can heal. Promise? I promise. And you know what? Maybe we can fix this ballerina too. Sometimes broken things can be put back together in a way that makes them even more special. Okay. Do you like my room? I moved all the furniture around so it would be different. That's when I really looked around the room, and it broke my heart. Ivy had indeed rearranged all her furniture, but not randomly. She'd pushed everything, her bed, her dresser, her toy chest, against the walls, leaving the center of the room completely empty. It was like she'd created a barrier around herself, a fortress of furniture to keep the world out. This is very creative, I said, meaning it. You made your own special space in the middle. The other nannies said it was messy and made me put everything back. Well, I think it's interesting. Can you tell me why you wanted it this way? Ivy sat down in the center of her empty space, cross-legged on the carpet. Because when everything is pushed away, nothing can fall on me or break or disappear. The wisdom and pain in that statement took my breath away. This child had learned that the things and people she loved could disappear without warning, so she was trying to control her environment in the only way she knew how. I sat down across from her in the empty space. That makes a lot of sense. When things disappear, it's scary. Mommy disappeared, Ivy said matter-of-factly. Daddy said she went to heaven, but I think she just went away because I was bad. Oh, sweetheart, no. Your mommy didn't go away because you were bad. She got sick, and sometimes when people get very sick, their bodies stop working, even though they don't want to leave. But if I had been better, maybe she would have tried harder to stay. I felt tears prick my eyes. This little girl had been carrying the weight of imagined guilt for 2 years, and no one had helped her understand that her mother's death wasn't her fault. Ivy, can I tell you something very important? She nodded. When my mommy died, I thought it was my fault too. I thought that if I had been a better daughter, or if I had helped more around the house, or if I had told her I loved her more often, maybe she wouldn't have gotten sick. Was it your fault? No, it wasn't, and it took me a long time to understand that. Mommies don't die because their children are bad. They die because sometimes bodies get sick in ways that doctors can't fix, no matter how much love there is. Ivy was quiet for a long time, picking at the carpet. Finally, she said, "The other nannies said I needed to stop thinking about mommy and focus on being good for daddy. What do you think about that?" I think they were stupid. I don't want to stop thinking about mommy. If I stop thinking about her, I might forget her. You're absolutely right. You should never stop thinking about your mommy. Thinking about people we love who aren't here anymore is one of the ways we keep them close to us. Really? Really? Do you want to tell me about your mommy? What was she like? For the next hour, Ivy told me about her mother. She told me about how her mom used to make pancakes in funny shapes, how she would read 3 bedtime stories instead of 1, how she smelled like flowers and always knew exactly what to say when Ivy was scared or sad. She used to brush my hair every night, Ivy said, touching her tangled locks. 100 brushes. She said it would make it shiny like a princess. That sounds lovely. Do you still brush your hair? Daddy tries sometimes, but he doesn't know how. And the nannies just want to put it in a ponytail so it's out of the way. Would you like me to brush your hair? I could try to do it the way your mommy did. Ivy's eyes lit up. You would do that? Of course. Should we get your brush? As I gently brushed Ivy's hair, counting out loud to 100, just like her mother used to do, I could feel some of the tension leaving her small body. This wasn't about hair care. This was about connection, about honoring her mother's memory, about showing Ivy that the things her mother did for her were important and worth continuing. Ellie? Ivy said when I finished. Yes? Are you going to leave like the other nannies? I'm going to try very hard to stay, if you'll let me. What if I'm bad? What if I have tantrums or break things? Then we'll figure out together why you're feeling upset, and we'll find better ways to handle those big feelings. You won't tell me I'm a brat? Never. You're not a brat, Ivy. You're a little girl who misses her mommy very much, and that's completely normal and okay. When Mr. Turner came to check on us an hour later, he found us sitting on Ivy's bed, looking through a photo album of her mother. Ivy was curled up against my side, pointing out pictures and telling me stories about each one. She's never, he started, then stopped, staring at us in amazement. She's never let any of the other nannies look at those pictures. Daddy, Ivy said, jumping up. Ellie's mommy died too, just like mine did, and she said it's okay to be sad, and it's okay to think about mommy. Mr. Turner's eyes met mine over Ivy's head, and I saw something shift in his expression. Surprise, relief, and maybe the first glimmer of hope he'd felt in a long time. Is that so? He said, sitting down on the bed next to us. What else did Ellie tell you? She said that I'm not a brat. I watched Mr. Turner's face as his daughter spoke, and I could see the moment he realized that Ivy was not as difficult as he thought. The pain and guilt that crossed his features told me he'd been so lost in his own grief that he'd missed his daughter's. Over the next few weeks, I settled into a routine with Ivy that was unlike anything the previous nannies had attempted. Instead of trying to impose structure and discipline, I focused on helping her process her grief and find healthy ways to express her emotions. We created a memory box for her mother, filling it with photos, letters, and small mementos. We planted a garden in the backyard with her mother's favorite flowers. We established bedtime rituals that honored her mother's memory while creating new traditions. Most importantly, we talked. Every day we talked about feelings, sadness, anger, fear, confusion. I taught Ivy that all feelings were okay, but that there were good ways and not so good ways to express them. When you feel angry, I explained one day after she'd had a small meltdown over a broken toy, it's okay to feel that way, but instead of throwing things or yelling, what are some other things you could do? I could tell you I'm angry. That's a great idea. What else? I could draw an angry picture? Perfect. Or you could punch a pillow or run around the backyard or do jumping jacks. There are lots of ways to get angry feelings out without hurting yourself or other people or breaking things. The tantrums didn't stop immediately, but they became less frequent and less intense. More importantly, Ivy started coming to me when she felt upset, instead of bottling up her emotions until they exploded. Ellie, she said one afternoon, finding me in the kitchen where I was preparing her snack, I'm feeling sad about mommy today. Thank you for telling me, I said, sitting down at the table with her. Do you know what's making you feel extra sad today? Tommy at school said his mommy is coming to the school play next week, and I remembered that my mommy can't come to my school play ever again. That must have felt really hard to hear. It did. And I wanted to push Tommy, but I remembered what you said about angry feelings, so I came to tell you instead. I'm so proud of you for making that choice. What would help you feel better right now? Can we look at the picture of mommy at my last school play? Of course we can. These moments of connection and emotional honesty were transforming Ivy from a child who expressed everything through destructive behavior into a little girl who was learning to identify and communicate her feelings. But the real breakthrough came 6 weeks into my employment, when Mr. Turner returned from a business trip to find a very different household than the one he'd left. He arrived home on a Friday evening to find Ivy and me in the kitchen, making dinner together. Ivy was standing on a step stool, carefully stirring a pot of soup while I chopped vegetables nearby. She was chattering happily about her day at school, telling me about a book she'd read and a picture she'd drawn. "Daddy," she called when she saw him, but instead of running to him immediately, she turned back to the stove. "I have to keep stirring or the soup will burn. Ellie taught me how to cook." Mr. Turner stood in the doorway, staring at the scene before him. "She's cooking?" "We've been working on life skills, cooking, cleaning, taking care of herself. It gives her a sense of control and accomplishment. And she's not—" He paused, looking around the kitchen, which was admittedly a bit messy but not destroyed. "There's no tantrum? No broken dishes?" "Daddy, I'm a good girl," Ivy said matter-of-factly. "Well, sometimes I'm not, but most of times I am. Ellie taught me that when I feel like having a tantrum, I should tell her what's wrong instead." "Is that so?" "Yes, and she taught me that it's okay to miss Mommy, and that missing Mommy doesn't mean I can't be happy sometimes too." I watched Mr. Turner's face as he processed what his daughter was telling him. The relief and amazement in his expression were unmistakable. "Mr. Turner," I said quietly while Ivy focused on her stirring, "could we talk after dinner? There are some things I'd like to discuss with you about Ivy's progress." "Of course. And Ellie, thank you. I don't know what you've done, but this is the most peaceful I've seen this house since Mommy died," Ivy finished, not looking up from her soup. "It's okay to say it, Daddy. Ellie says that talking about sad things makes them less scary." After dinner, while Ivy played in her room, Mr. Turner and I sat in his study. I could see the exhaustion in his face, the weight of 2 years of single parenting a grieving child while managing his own grief and a demanding career. "I need to ask you something. What did you do that 11 other nannies couldn't? How did you get through to her?" I listened to what her behavior was telling me instead of just trying to stop the behavior. Ivy wasn't acting out because she was spoiled or disciplined. She was acting out because she was drowning in grief and guilt that no one had helped her process. Guilt? She blamed herself for her mother's death. She thought that if she had been a better child, her mother would have tried harder to stay alive. Mr. Turner's face went pale. "She never told me that." Children often don't have the words to express those kinds of complex feelings. Instead, they express them through behavior. The tantrums, the destruction, the refusal to bond with new caregivers. It was all her way of saying, "I'm in pain and I don't know how to handle it." But we tried therapy. Sometimes children aren't ready for formal therapy right away. Sometimes they need to feel safe and understood first. Ivy needed someone to validate her feelings and help her understand that grief is normal and healthy, not something to get over quickly. Mr. Turner was quiet for a long time, staring out the window at the garden where Ivy and I had planted her mother's flowers. "I failed her, didn't I?"
"You didn't fail her, you were grieving too, and you did the best you could with the tools you had. But Mr. Turner, I think Ivy isn't the only one who needs to process this loss." "What do you mean?" "When was the last time you talked about your wife? When was the last time you allowed yourself to grieve instead of just staying busy with work?" His laugh was bitter. "I don't have time to grieve. I have a company to run and a daughter to raise." But staying busy doesn't make the grief go away. It just postpones it. And children are very perceptive. Ivy can sense that you're avoiding your own pain, which makes her feel like she needs to avoid hers too. "So what are you suggesting?" "I think you should consider therapy for yourself. And I think you and Ivy should spend more time talking about her mother together. She needs to know that it's safe to miss her mom around you, that she doesn't have to protect you from her grief. I don't know how to talk to her about it. Every time she mentions her mother, I feel like I'm going to fall apart. That's okay. It's okay to cry in front of your daughter. It shows her that grief is normal and that you miss her mother too. Over the following months, I watched the Turner family slowly heal. Mr. Turner started therapy and began working fewer hours, spending more time at home with Ivy. They established new traditions while honoring old ones. They visited her mother's grave together on her birthday. They cooked her favorite meals on special occasions, and they talked about her openly and honestly. Ivy continued to thrive. Her tantrums became rare, and when she did have difficult moments, she had the tools to communicate what she was feeling instead of just acting out. She made friends at school, participated in activities, and slowly began to trust that the people she loved wouldn't disappear without warning. "Ellie," she said one evening as I was tucking her into bed, "I'm not sad about Mommy today." "That's okay. You don't have to be sad every day." "I know, but I wanted to tell you because I used to think that if I wasn't sad, it meant I was forgetting her. But now I know that I can be happy and still remember her." "That's exactly right. Your mommy would want you to be happy." "I think she would like you," Ivy said thoughtfully. "I think she would be glad that you came to take care of me. I think she would be proud of how brave and strong you've become." A year and a half after I started working for the Turner family, Mr. Turner called me into his study for what I thought would be a routine check-in about Ivy's progress. "Ellie," he said, "I need to tell you something. I've been offered a position that would require us to relocate to London for 2 years." My heart sank. I'd grown to love this family, and the thought of leaving them felt devastating. "I wanted to ask you if you would consider coming with us. You've become such an important part of our lives, and I can't imagine Ivy having to adjust to a new caregiver again, especially with such a big move." "You want me to come to London?" "I want you to come wherever we go. Ellie, you saved my daughter. You saved our family. I know that being a nanny wasn't supposed to be a permanent career for you, but I hope you'll consider staying with us long term. We'll pay for you to continue your education if you want, support whatever goals you have, but please, don't leave us." I looked at this man who had learned to be vulnerable, to grieve openly, to put his daughter's emotional needs above his own convenience. I thought about Ivy, who had transformed from an angry, destructive child into a confident, emotionally intelligent little girl who knew how to ask for what she needed.
"Mr. Turner," I said, "I can't think of anything I'd rather do than continue being part of Ivy's life." True to his word, Mr. Turner supported my continued education throughout our time together. While caring for Ivy, I completed my master's degree in child psychology through online courses and weekend intensives. The Turner family adjusted their schedule to accommodate my studies, with Mr. Turner often taking over bedtime duties when I had evening classes or exams. "Why are you still studying?" Ivy asked one evening, finding me at the kitchen table with textbooks spread around me. "You already know how to help kids." "Because there's always more to learn," I explained. "Every child is different, and I want to make sure I have all the tools I need to help them." "Are you learning about kids like me?" "I'm learning about all kinds of kids. Kids who are sad, kids who are angry, kids who are scared, kids who have trouble making friends. The more I learn, the better I can help." My studies took on new meaning as I applied theoretical concepts to real-life situations with Ivy. I wrote my master's thesis on attachment and grief in early childhood, drawing heavily on my experiences with the Turner family while maintaining their privacy and anonymity. I also pursued specialized training in play therapy, art therapy, and trauma-informed care. Mr. Turner paid for me to attend conferences and workshops, understanding that my professional development directly benefited his daughter. "Ellie is not just our nanny," I overheard him telling a colleague once. She's a child development specialist who happens to live with us. Ivy gets the kind of individualized, expert care that most families could never access. During our time in London, I connected with child psychologists at Great Ormond Street Hospital, observing their work and learning about different therapeutic approaches. I even started a support group for expatriate families dealing with childhood grief and trauma. I want to do what you do when I grow up, Ivy told me one day as she watched me prepare materials for the support group. What do you think I do? I asked, curious about her perspective. You help kids feel better when they're sad or scared. You listen to them and you don't try to make them stop feeling things. That's a pretty good description. Would you like to help kids someday? Maybe. Or maybe I'll help grown-ups who don't know how to help kids, like Daddy before you came. Her insight never ceased to amaze me. At 11, she had a sophisticated understanding of emotional intelligence that many adults lacked. She still misses her mother, and probably always will. But she's learned that grief and joy can coexist, that loving someone who's gone doesn't mean you can't love the people who are here. Mr. Turner has remarried, a wonderful woman named Jordan, who understands that she's not replacing Ivy's mother, but adding to their family. Ivy was the one who suggested that Jordan and her father should get married, and she helped plan the wedding. I think Mommy would like Jordan, and I think she would be happy that Daddy isn't sad all the time anymore. She told me as we picked out flowers for the ceremony. As for me, I've discovered that sometimes the most important work we do isn't the career we planned, but the life we stumble into when we follow our hearts instead of our expectations. I never intended to become a permanent part of the Turner family, but I can't imagine my life any other way. I've learned that children who are labeled difficult or impossible are often just children who are hurting in ways that adults don't understand. I've learned that grief doesn't follow a timeline, and that healing happens not when we stop missing the people we've lost, but when we learn to carry our love for them alongside our love for the people who are still here. Ivy still has moments when she misses her mother intensely, when the grief hits her like a wave, but now she has the tools to ride those waves instead of being pulled under by them. And she has a family, biological and chosen, who will hold her steady until the storm passes. The little girl who once pushed all her furniture against the walls to protect herself from loss has learned that love is worth the risk of losing it. And the nanny who was supposed to be temporary has found her permanent home in the space between grief and healing, in the beautiful mess of a family learning to love again. An absolutely powerful story about seeing beyond difficult behavior to the pain underneath, and how sometimes the most challenging children are the ones who need us most. What do you think of Ellie's approach to helping Ivy process her grief, instead of just trying to control her behavior? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you were moved by this heartwarming story about healing, family, and the power of understanding, please show your support by hitting that like button and be sure to subscribe for more inspiring stories that celebrate the bonds we choose to create. Don't forget to click the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.